forgive. There was no regard for that. There's no regard for the feelings of both Kate and myself, or other children, in fact our wider extended family.
Do you think you were naive?
Of course we're naive in the sense that we have never been exposed to the media previously, and I think though that we were better protected than many, Jeremy.
But then you had this entire media circus.
I agree, it was a circus.
Camped out around you, but you collaborated with them when it was convenient to you, didn't you? I mean, you would announce photo calls and whether or not you'd be speaking that day, or whether maybe tomorrow or the day after. I mean, do you think to some degree you reaped a whirlwind?
We reaped a whirlwind? No. I presume you're taking a very much a devil's advocate's position here on what you're doing. We had very clear objectives, what we wanted, and any parents would take the opportunity of trying to get information into the investigation that might help find their daughter, and that's what our clear objectives were.
And so quickly, all the contacts that you've made, can I ask you, Gerry, if you personally know Mr. Gordon Brown, the Prime Minister?
No, and we've never met Gordon Brown. We've spoken to him once on the phone. I think the most important thing to say is that the evidence that's been presented by the PGA and the prosecutor to the judiciary, and the judiciary, having reviewed all of the evidence, have said that there is no evidence that Madeleine is dead, and there's no evidence to implicate us in her death, and that's the message, really. Alive when she was taken from the apartment. Obviously what we don't know is what happened to her afterwards, who's taken her and what her motive is. Everything we've done during the last 100 days is focused on the belief that Madeleine was alive when she was abducted.
In that evening, did you give to your kids something like Calpol to help them sleep?
You know, we're not going to comment on anything, but you know, there is absolutely no way we used any sedative drugs or anything like that. And you know, we have cooperated fully with the police.
This is the first time that you give us a big interview, not being arguidos since then. So now I feel free to ask you this directly. How can you explain the coincidence of the scent of the cadaver felt by British and not Portuguese dogs?
Sandra, maybe you should be asking the judiciary, because they've examined all this.
But don't you have an explanation
we're
for
obviously
that?
Madeleine's mum and dad, and we're desperate for people to help us find Madeleine, which is why we're here today. The majority of people are inherently good, and I believe the majority of people in Portugal are inherently good people, and we're asking them if they'll help us spread this message to that person or people.
So you don't have any explanation for that?
Ask the dogs, Sandra.
Ask the dogs, no, Gerry. Now I think that I feel free to ask you. Don't you feel free to answer me?
I can tell you that we've obviously looked at evidence about cadaver dogs, and they're incredibly unreliable.
Unreliable?
Cadaver dogs, yes. That's what the evidence shows. If they're tested scientifically. You're right.
And you mentioned reliable trials. How do you feel now that Amaral's book is going to be in the shelves here?
Yeah, so, well, you know, as we've already alluded to, anyone who wants to convince people that Madeleine is dead without evidence to support it, their motives have to be questioned.
And as Gerry's just said, that is our ultimate goal, is to find Madeleine.
And just finally, can you update people, where are you now? I mean, recently you went over to Germany, you translated all your literature into German, so how can you update people? Where are you now? Have you got any new leads? What's happening with your investigations?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say to you that we did have some hot leads, but I mean...
Hace unas 2 semanas la investigación dio un giro radical porque se hallaron en el apartamento minúsculos restos de sangre. Cuando vosotros os enteráis de eso, de que la policía ha descubierto sangre en el apartamento, ¿cómo reaccionáis?
Do you know what? This is all investigation. I need to speak to the police. It's just, you know, all your questions are about investigation. And we can't comment on them.
Gerry? No.
We can't answer questions about it.
I asked about your reaction.
Speculation.
Your feeling. Just your feeling.
So that you can then say, stick to the official line.
He's too off. Give him a minute. He's a bit hot. Go and get some fresh air. No, don't worry. And so it was just a passing remark, and to be fair, hindsight is a wonderful thing, you know. I mean, if what happened hadn't happened, then that comment would never have passed through my head again. It was only because what happened that suddenly you're thinking about everything, you think, was that relevant? And that's why I mentioned that.
Tell me what happened that morning. What Madeleine said.
Well, I can't remember if we just had breakfast. It was sort of fairly early in the morning, and she just very casually really said, "Where were you last night when me and Sean cried?" And we immediately looked and said, you know, when was this, Madeleine? Was this when you were going to sleep? And she didn't answer. And then she just carried on playing, totally undistressed.
Did she tell you off when she was saying it?
No. It was a passing remark, you know, and...
Madeleine's very articulate and for her age, and yeah, it's unlike her, if she's got something to say, to drop it. she just literally dropped it. And we both kind of looked at each other and said, was it when we just put them down?
We obviously told the police because we thought, does this indicate that someone's been around the night before and that's what's woken her up? Which is significant, you know. I've persecuted myself over and over again about that statement, because you think, why didn't I kind of just hold her and say, what do you mean, you know, what do you mean you woke up, you know, and kind of, but you don't think that. I mean, it's easy saying that after what's happened.
I mean, is it the case, you can clear it up right here now, was Madeleine upset the night before about being left alone? Had she had a moment and got out of bed and started crying and started looking for it?
I mean, I don't want to dwell on it too much. I mean, I don't know if you saw the documentary last night, so I mean, I have talked about it. Madeleine made a comment in passing that, where were you when I cried? Not just to Mummy, by the way, just generally. It just seemed a bit odd. I mean, it was a very kind of passing remark, and we just thought she doesn't usually wake up, and she woke up, that means that, you know, she must have fallen back asleep very quickly, and then she moved on.
You know, you said that the night before, Madeleine and Sean had been very upset, and
I didn't say that.
What, that was in the statement, wasn't it? That was leaked out. Was that not the case? Was she not upset the night before and talked to you the night before?
What we said is there, and it was the next morning, Madeleine had said to us, why didn't you come when you cried last night? And at the time, we thought that's odd, and we looked at each other and we asked her directly when she meant, and she just dropped it and moved on. And we thought, when we're crying, we've been checking. It would be exceptional for particularly the twins to cry, go back to sleep in between our checks. So obviously kids cry all the time when they're getting bathed, when they're tired, when they're doing that. And we did wonder if it was when they were getting put to bed or around that time.
started writing for our children, Madeleine, Sean and Emily, because I wanted them to have a record of everything that had happened since the 3rd of May 2007. And at a time when they were able and ready, they would have access to an account of the truth. I started writing for our children, Madeleine, Sean and Emily, because I wanted them to have a record of everything that had happened since the 3rd of May 2007. And at a time when they were able and ready, they would have access to an account of the truth.
I have not seen any evidence or know of any direct evidence to have changed our viewpoint to what we've held for the last 100 days. And you know, we've said all along, and everything we've done during the last 100 days is focused on the belief that Madeleine was alive when she was abducted. and I don't know of any information that's changed that. Of course, the information and the way the investigation's going is about thoroughness and making sure that everyone is as confident as possible that that is the case. Kate and I strongly believe that Madeleine was alive when she was taken from the apartment.